afternoon, Warriors, and welcome in to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, is Robert Hagan. Robert, how are you doing today?
It is a wonderful day out here, ready for LC news. We talk about basketball today. It's March Madness time. Finally filled out. Finally looked at my bracket today. Finally got it done. And even did a women's bracket for the first time. And so it was a little busy trying to do all of that today. I ended up subbing and last hour of the day, and as the teacher I subbed for has a senior up there for Clarkston soccer. So we have an update for soccer score here in a little bit, but it's crazy to think about all these sports happening all at once, and football. Yes. And
we say it so many times over the last few weeks where we were begging for sports when we first started the show. And now we can't just have 2 hours. We need far more than this to be able to fill everything in. Luckily for us, the NFL has zero news for us today. So that's only going to take us an hour and a half to get through.
So we think we'll get through that.
Who knows?
It'll be crazy.
See, you were subbing and all that. I ended up buying another dollhouse for my daughter.
So you have more furniture at your house now. That's what you're saying.
So much little furniture in our house.
You've got a new box for her
No,
house.
it was at a thrift store. We were just checking stuff out, and they had this really nice dollhouse just sitting there. We went, oh, she gets another one, apparently. And sadly, I wasn't there to see her reaction, but I'm sure it was great. And so she'll never use it again.
So you're adding on to the house now? You're having to add more stuff on.
We're having a village. We're just creating a village. It's just what we're doing at this point. All right, like Robert said, we have a jam-packed show for you. NFL free agency is getting going. They can't officially sign until tomorrow, but they can talk, and that's when you get all of the rumors and the news. And we will break a lot. Well, I can't say all of it. A lot of it down. Obviously, we're going to break down each of the regions for the basketball tournament. We're going to talk about the women's tournament. It is the Central Day in baseball, so the AL and NL Centrals, and Robert once again won the coin flip.
I was to say, who got the coin flip this time?
Every time you get the coin flip, the luckiest man in the world. Like you said, we got a bunch of LCSC sports we're going to get to. We got some Washington football. Pomeroy had a really cool matchup with Clarkston yesterday. We'll get to that. Some Big Sky, some NBA.
And I still lead in the NBA, right?
I'm just skipping right over that. We got some golf, some bowling, and finally, we're going to get to some Aussie Rules football that starts this weekend. I'm going to get Robert into the sport if it's the last thing I do. But first, let's talk about the big weekend for the LCST basketball teams. Both the women and the men move on to the Sweet 16 in the NAIA tournament, as they were both here at home. And it was such a great scene, even though we're only really using half of the gym, but to see 400 people watching a basketball game. I called a couple of the games with Bert, and just, I don't know how many times people have said, it's so weird to have like reactions to shots get made. And congratulations to both of them. The women had to win 2 games to get there. They dominated William Jessup after a slow start. They won that one 73-44. And then just a fantastic game. I could watch LCSC and Carroll College play 100 times a year. Every time they play, it's really close. It's always back and forth. It's very physical. But the women get it done 76-67 and pull the upset. And now we'll play the number 3 seed Campbellsville on Friday at 11 a.m. So they have a tough road ahead of them. So they don't reseed, but they basically renumber. And whatever their top seed was before, they just renumber those 16 seeds. So
and where did they go? I'm trying to remember where they were traveling, correct?
Am I going to throw a blank? Hold on.
They were traveling.
Iowa. Sioux City, Iowa for the women. And I believe they were taking off today or tomorrow. As for the men, they got the bye in the first round and then had a very physical game with Bennington Mesa. I want to say the first 10 minutes were just back and forth, but the men showed that they just have far more depth and far more talent than Mesa, who was making their first appearance in the tournament, had a great showing, pulled up the upset in the first game. But the Warrior men do win that one 98-73. Unfortunately, a little rough as Jake Albright got himself ejected from the game. There was a center on the Red Hawks, who we described as a giant tight end. This kid was 6'8", 6'9", and I want to say like 280. And super physical inside, was pushing Tristan Bradley around at the beginning of the game. Bradley gets 2 early fouls. So they bring Jake in, who's already very pumped up to have this competition with the center. They get into it a little bit. They both get the double technicals, and a little bit later, again, that adrenaline's going for Jake, and argued with the ref a little bit too much, got himself ejected. And so he will not be able to play in the Sweet 16 game, unfortunately, but hopefully they can get the job done. The LCSC men will be the 3 seed in the tournament, as they will take on Oklahoma Wesleyan also on Friday at 1:45 p.m. You can check out both of the games on KOZE, or you can check it out on whatever the NAIA streaming service is. Obviously, it's a paid service,
Right.
But you can check out all the action, as we will see how both of these teams do. And I believe the finals is, or they'll have a game on Tuesday if they keep moving on. I just forget which round that is. So what do you think of these two teams?
I think they've got a great chance. I think the men have probably a little bit easier game. I'm excited to actually listen to it and see, how they play. But you get pretty good depth for the Lewiston men. So the LC men, and so I'm really excited to see how they can handle Oklahoma Wesleyan. I think our big guys match up with them a little bit better. So look for them to attack the boards, especially not having Albright there in the mix. It's going to be relying on Bradley, relying on the rest of the guys there to get in there, because they're going to be one guy short in this entire game. But he'll be there for support. He'll be able to coach up like as any player that doesn't play. So watching what's going on. The women, I think it'll be interesting to see how they match up against Campbellsville. I'm not too sure about what this team is all about. So it'll be interesting to listen to that game and kind of dissect what they're going against. As some of these teams very different in offenses. And the one thing in looking and watching, some of the replays of, it's weird to see how coaching styles match up with different coaching styles, even in the main side of the bracket. We talk about these bigger schools, in the March Madness. It's fun to watch just how matchups of the idea from one coach, how he coaches, to a different coach, and how they play defense. It's truly a matchup game, and you've got to do it real quick, and you've got to figure out. That's what I like more about, the women's side of it. You got 4 periods, you got to figure it out pretty quick and get on it. The men, it's the same thing, but it'll be interesting to see how the Warrior ladies match up against that number 3 Campbellsville.
Yeah, and looking at Campbellsville, it's going to be a very tough test for the Warriors. 19-2 on the season, and their one tournament game was against Bryan College, where they won 90-57. Their one loss since February 4th. Both of their losses all season long came to Thomas More, who's the number 1 team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's going to be a very tough test for the Warrior women. For the men, again, they take on Oklahoma Wesleyan. Oklahoma Wesleyan's 21-6 on the year, as they beat Science and Arts on Saturday, 100-73. So they put up a lot of points. So we will see how that goes for them. And I was right that the national championship for the NAIA will be next Tuesday, if either of these teams can make it. So hopefully we'll be able to give live updates for at least one of them.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
So it'd be a lot of fun.
One other shout out, we talked to Tristan. We like to talk our local kids and talk them up. And True Allen, he had made his way with his ball club with Northwest Nazarene University for their regional tournament and had the chance. They walked all over Point Loma 85-73 and then handled number 1 Colorado Mesa University and won that one by 20, 74-54. And Drew only had like 18 minutes, but he had 2 points, and both of them from the line. But had a tough loss last night as they went down pretty hard against the number 2 team, Colorado School of Mines. They end up losing that one 84-52. So shout out to Northwest Nazarene University out of Southern Idaho and True Allen and his team. Congratulations on making it there to their playoffs.
All right, let's move on to the NCAA, and let's move on to the West region first. And we're just going to do a little bit of breakdowns for each of these as we go along. We're going to spread it out throughout the entire episode, make you guys hang out to see who our Final Four and champion are going to be, just drag it out a little bit. So let's get to the West region. This is the Gonzaga region. And I have to say, if you're a Gonzaga fan, you love their bracket.
Yes and no. As I was going through it, you're looking at the idea of the matchup again against Iowa. I mean, I like that chance to see in that game again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might be the only thing. I do like the idea of seeing Kansas in that side, and Eastern. Who would have figured Eastern Washington would have snuck in there and got that one? So they're also in that side. It's going to be interesting how they get down into the round of 16 and a round of 8. I think that's where things will get a little crazy for Gonzaga.
I'm still not sure. So the top 4 seeds in this bracket, Gonzaga, Iowa, Kansas, and Virginia. Gonzaga's had no problem with those guys that they played in this bracket. And Kansas and Virginia are the 2 teams that are coming into the tournament with COVID issues.
Right. But I think I'm more interested to see what Iowa does. I mean, yeah, Gonzaga ended up winning that game against Iowa, but going against their big man for Iowa, I mean, it was all about him, and his name escapes me a little bit, but he still ended up having like 24 points, shooting around his average. I mean, he has just been the big star there for that ball club. I think Gonzaga kind of gets through. They get to play either Appalachian State or Norfolk. That all depends on tomorrow's games. How do you feel about them shifting things back a week? And I understand everybody's all together, but how do you feel? We're not going to start March Madness, on Thursday. They're backing it up a day and all that. How do you feel?
Honestly, as somebody that has classes on Thursday but doesn't have classes on Friday,
can't play into your.
But the problem is now the second round gets moved to, or the last part of the second round gets moved to Monday,
right?
And that's one of my busy days.
Right.
But there's less games on Monday, so I have no problem with it personally. And actually, it kind of works out for a lot of people because the main time that a lot of people are going to take days off are that first round, because you have so many games going on all day long, and they have to take Thursday and Friday off. Now you just need Friday off. That's a little bit easier to swing with your boss, I think.
Well, and that might be a plus, and I'm hoping my principal's not listening, but he talked about listening tonight.
You're yelled at. Everyone's saying Luca Garza.
I'm sorry. I'm a little behind, but thanks, Jerry and David. But they got a couple of new boards in there at school that they do some learning on, and they're like an 80+ inch TV. I can put my password in there and watch a little.
There you go.
Basketball on Friday because a couple of my classes are testing. So, I mean, there you go. Maybe I sit behind my desk all day and just watch basketball.
So what out of the first round matchups here in the West, what's the matchup you're most excited to see?
I'm excited to see Creighton play. But if I had to pick one out of this game, I honestly, I want to see how Oregon does, how Oregon matches up against VCU. I do have Oregon winning that, but I think that's going to be a lot closer out of all of the other ones. I think that first round is probably going to be pretty easy for all the bigger numbers to make their way through.
Yeah, I'm also going to say Oregon and VCU, just for the fact that VCU is always that team in the tournament that finds way into the Sweet 16. And Oregon, I think, is a sneaky number 7. I think that's a very, very good team. I couldn't come up with an upset here.
I couldn't either. Not
I have all top 8 seeds going on, so everyone knows that my West side is going to be completely demolished by the time we come back on Tuesday. But I have a 0 upset. Do you have an upset at all in the West?
I don't think I do here. I'm looking Iowa, Oregon, Kansas, USC, Virginia, Creighton. Yeah, I do. I have a 9. Well, it's not really an upset. I mean, I have.
You have to go for a 9-8.
I have a 9-8. I have Missouri beating Oklahoma. That's my only. But I mean, they're right on the cusp.
If you're listening in, as Eric, David, and my dad are, let us know if you have any upsets in the West and who you have moving on. And of course, follow us on the R&R Sports Report Facebook page and send us your brackets, and we'll keep track and see who wins out of everyone that listens in.
So I'm hoping David's not trying to get me in trouble here. Because
totally. This is now evidence that you have been a terrible teacher during March.
I'm probably going to get in trouble now, knowing that yeah, sometimes when it comes to March Madness, it's time to watch some ball. Even with state, we used to do that too.
All right, give me your representative out of the West. We'll go that far.
We'll go that far. I think Gonzaga is going to end up getting out of it and going to make it to the Final Four. Like you said, I don't think Kansas is going to have enough when they finally make it to the round of 8. So I think Gonzaga.
Yeah, our brackets are way too similar. It's starting to get a little scary.
Well, I think on that one. I think we're a little different on the other sides.
But I do also have Gonzaga moving on. I think everyone in the Northwest, unless you absolutely hate Gonzaga, is going to have Gonzaga moving on. Most people watching college basketball will probably have Gonzaga moving on here. Though I will say, if you are in one of these big bracket challenges,
mm-hmm.
where you are an office pool where you have a lot of people in, and you have no idea what you're looking at, and you're just filling out names, might I suggest having Gonzaga not make it this far? Because if for the chance that they don't make it, you're the only one that has it that way, and everyone else will lose their champions, and that'll be your easiest way to win your pool.
I knew a lady that would make 2 brackets. One was by field.
That is sacrilege.
The other one was she was Democratic, and everything was a blue state.
Well, listen, we're not going to get into politics in this show. No, actually, technically,
who does Seth have? I don't know. Is he even paying attention?
He's probably paying attention. He's got headphones in the other room. I used to make 3 brackets, but only one was my bracket. But I would do a coin flip bracket just to see craziness,
mm-hmm.
and then I would pull out. They don't make college basketball games anymore, but I would still pull out one of the old ones, like NCAA basketball 10, something like now 10 years ago, and I would just put the teams in, and then I'd simulate it. And simulating on these old video games is funny anyways, because you would see 16s beat 1s all the time. They just didn't care. And then I would just see how it went. And I just haven't been doing that as much anymore. But I will have my kids do one.
It'll be interesting.
Just to see. I'll put those on the Facebook page as well.
Yeah, we'll be posting each of us, we've each taken a picture. Well, at least I have. I don't know if you've taken a picture.
I got to actually write it out. It's all on ESPN right now.
We'll post those here probably tomorrow. We'll put them on the website, and so everybody can look at our brackets and either laugh at us or say,
Oh, that's fine. I mean, even if you don't laugh now, you'll laugh when I have to mark it all in red, because that's how I do every year. All right, let's get to the NFL, and this is going to take up the rest of our show, apparently.
Did you order in for dinner? I mean, to get through all this, we're going to have to order in.
Just listing all of the stuff that we have down could take us a long time. So we'll find a way to shorten it, but who knows? Let's talk about the cuts and retirements and all the craziness. Obviously, Drew Brees retires. I saw a lot of people surprised by this news. I thought it was a foregone conclusion to me.
Well, I think so too. My wife you could tell she kind of got upset, but within the next day, I mean, he was already on the Today Show announcing his new job.
But that was already announced last year.
Right. But I think
he had a job the moment he retired.
Yeah. But it was kind of funny, within 24 hours, he was already on Twitter but I think the coolest part about it is how he did his retirement and had the kids say, I'm spending more time with dad. And then the next day, guess what? I'm still going to be doing stuff with New Orleans and all that, but it's spending time with the kids. So
you can't. get that completely out of your system.
No,
You've been
no.
part of football for so long. The Saints also released Emmanuel Sanders, who I do believe I just heard signed with Buffalo.
Yeah, we got that on the
We'll get to that.
Yep.
And they also released linebacker Quan Alexander. So again, they have been trying to restructure things and figure things out in New Orleans to make the cap. They do re-sign Jameis Winston to a 1-year, $12 million deal. And they extended, I'm going to blank on his name. Who's the other guy? Who's the other quarterback / running back / does everything? Taysom Hill, thank you. I just blanked on his name. They signed him to a 4-year, $120 million contract that's completely voidable and it doesn't really matter.
Right. But they did say today that, Sean Payton is quoted in saying today that it will be a job, they're going to try out for the job. So
yeah.
They're not saying it's Hill's job. They're not going to say it's Winston's job. It's up to the best guy.
You have to have a fun competition. It was just funny to me to see that they have a completely voidable contract just to try to move some salary cap around. Why not have even more fun with it and say 4-year, $1 billion contract, completely voidable? David Johnson, I apologize. The Blue Devils are not in the bracket. I don't think they're even in the women's bracket either. But
I don't think so.
Yeah, Kentucky and Duke not in the men's tournament this year. First time since 1976. The last time that happened, 1976. No Duke, no Kentucky. What happened? An undefeated team won the national championship, and that's what Gonzaga will be trying to do this year.
Hope the stars are aligning. I hope you didn't just jinx it. Yeah.
I have so few viewers and listeners. I'm such a small market, I can't jinx anything. I am too down on the totem pole. Zach Ertz looking for a trade from Philadelphia. And Traymon Williams announcing his retirement after 14. So the Lions cut former offensive lineman Joe Dahl. So we'll see where he goes. A lot of offensive linemen moving around, and he'll probably find home somewhere. Okay, let's get into the signings. And I'm going to check Twitter real quick. Nope, nothing new yet. Okay, cool. Because it's going to change every 2 seconds. Tom Brady signs an extension. That was once again more of a cap space move, as they're trying to bring basically back everybody. Cam Newton re-signing with the Patriots for 1 year. Are you surprised by that?
No.
No?
No.
I am.
I think, with all of their moves they're making, they're.
Well, this was the first move.
You're right. It was the first move, but I think now, they want to try to get Bill one more win. And I think he might be done next year.
I don't know if Cam's the answer, though.
It'll be interesting to see but they got busy the last day or so with everybody. They're wanting to move in there and stuff. But I think you're right. He just does not fit the typical offense that Josh Daniels and Bill Belichick have up there. It's just not. He's not the man anymore. He doesn't move like he does. He's not the pocket passer like Tom was in the basic field general. You look at what Cam's done over the last couple of years. He just doesn't move around as much. He just kind of lacks having the want to win. Maybe that's the wrong way to look at it. He's all about. It's still all about him. And it always has been.
He's gone through so many surgeries and issues, and it looked like it was painful for him to throw the football last year. On top of him getting COVID and signing late with the Patriots and having no off season.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm okay with them bringing him back, and it makes even more sense with all of the moves that the Patriots have done over the last 2 days, signing both Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry, which I think is perfect for Cam Newton. Because he is not accurate anymore. He can't throw the ball downfield like he used to.
So you set up two tight end
and
routes
and
just run mesh routes.
Give him the biggest targets you can.
Just run mesh routes and quick in routes and out routes.
They're going to play just kind of dink and dunk, kind of like what Drew Brees was at the end of his career. But you're going to have some good running in there. Cam Newton can still move. We'll see if they bring back James White or what running backs they're going to have back there.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's been running back by committee for how long there. So, I mean.
And it still will.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with him. I mean, who do they bring in for backup, or do they keep? I forget who.
And they could still. I mean, this could still set it up to. It's Stidham right now as their backup.
Right, that's right.
But they can still draft a quarterback. I don't think this prevents the Patriots from drafting a quarterback in the future. They can still get Mac Jones, which was the rumors before. So we'll see. But anyways, so they get the 2 tight ends, and they get Nelson Aguilar, who they are hoping is now completely cured of the drops. He had a pretty good year last year. They also signed Matt June to a 4-year deal. They signed Jalen Mills, the cornerback, to a 4-year deal. They get a nose tackle in there. They re-sign a defensive lineman in there.
And here's the thing. They still have $33 million in cap space.
See, I don't know if these numbers are accurate that I was looking up before because these numbers don't come off the books yet. So I'm still unsure if these sites are accurate until they actually sign. But it's going to be interesting.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with these numbers tomorrow.
But still, they have put up a ridiculous number of guaranteed money to these guys. And they, like you said, they're going all in for one last attempt at the run, for sure. Unfortunately, Aaron Jones resigns with the Green Bay Packers.
How does that make you feel? I bet you it makes Haley feel really good.
She was very stoked. 4 years, $48 million. Very happy for him. He's a very good dude. Made lots of money. I was just hoping it was with the Jets.
You didn't make your sign. That's the problem. You didn't make the sign.
He didn't make the free agency.
You didn't Twitter it.
You know what? He may not be free the way I want him to be free, but he made sure the Packers knew he wasn't free.
Exactly. I mean,
he got himself paid. Congratulations to him. Ryan Fitzpatrick, the Magic, going to Washington. Honestly, I think I love this move because they're going to draft a quarterback or they're going to bring in somebody young. And now Fitzmagic does that so well. I'm going to play the first 8 weeks. And then I'll just stand on the sideline and cheer you on.
So here's the tough part. As we get from the very end of how the NFL season ended for Miami, with the few people, the chatter you were hearing that they weren't behind Tua, they were more behind Fitzmagic. How does that shape up? Do you think the locker room with Tua probably going to be the main starter because
unless they can come out of way to get like a Watson or.
So how does Tua get that locker room back then?
Perform. That's it. If he starts performing better, he'll get the locker room.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be tough. I think especially kind of as they were saying, it was kind of a split locker room when both of them were playing. So I mean, youth next to that veteran, and I can see both sides of it. They just want to make sure that they're winning, but it'll be interesting to see what Miami does now with them moving on. Who takes over that leadership role? Because Tua is still very young, very young. I think they need to make a little bit of a change there, and I'm hoping that offensive line gets some help with Davis and those guys there, and anchor down Davis, on one side or the other. I mean, he was all over the place. He started, I think, 3 different positions, did Jesse. I mean, it's tough on a guy.
How do you feel about your boy Mark Ingram going to Houston?
It was all about big trust there 2 years ago, but it's the J.K. Dobbins show. It's the Gus Edwards show. Mark didn't play much in the last 3 games.
He was a healthy scratch.
Just because all the other guys played. J.K. didn't play anything else, but Mark would not play special teams, and that's what ended up hurting him. So I'm excited to see what happens with him in Texas. So for the Texans, so it'll be interesting to see as he signs 1 year, $3 million. So and then you'll move on to the next one, the former Raven, but he's been now with the 49ers for so many years. Kyle Juszczyk.
The only fullback in football.
Yeah, only fullback.
At least that's what I believe he's the only fullback. That's a dead position.
Well, and then, I was listening to Dan Patrick this morning, and then them time. When did things change to the point that now you have a position called edge? Everything used to be linebacker or DN or,
Well,
now it's the edge side of
his
it,
edges can play both.
right? But I mean, you look, that's
You want your own position because then you get paid different.
because that's a 3-4 defense most of the time. It goes to that 3-4 look, but it's curious. I mean, it's nuts. But Kyle, the only fullback I think in the whole thing, 5 years, $27 million. All right, you're the lead blocker. Here you go.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna make 27
And
million.
goal back.
Yeah,
for sure. My New York Jets made 2 good moves. Wide receiver Corey Davis, 3 years, $37.5 million. I'm still hoping. Again, I'll get going again. I'm still hoping they go out and get another receiver. Corey Davis is the number 2, would be fantastic. Give me Juju or Galladay still at that point. But I'm happy with that signing. But Carl Lawson, you're talking about edge rushers.
Mm-hmm.
Edge rushers and defensive ends have flown off the agency. But the Jets get a good one in Carl Lawson, formerly of the Bengals, 3 years, $45 million. The Bengals blinked for 2 seconds and then signed Trey Hendrickson, the defensive end from the Saints, to a 4-year, $60 million contract. It doesn't take long for them to replace Lawson. You look at the Buccaneers, they're trying to bring the entire team back. Obviously, Brady restructuring. They've already brought back Jack Barrett to a 4-year, $72 million contract. Brady's coming back. So Gronk's coming back. 1-year, $10 million deal. And they're in talks with everyone else. Sue and Fournette, everybody, to try to just return that whole crew. Ngakoue signed with the Raiders. How do you feel about losing him?
Yeah, then that's a tough thing. There was no way that we could keep Ngakoue along with Matt Judon, along with Calais Campbell and all that. Campbell had another year on his deal, but to lose Judon, to lose Ngakoue, I mean, it's huge for the defense. They do. Baltimore does get ready. They're on board to re-sign Derek Wolfe. That'll probably become official tomorrow for a 4-year deal, or I think a 3-year deal is the last I heard. And then we've got Tyus Bowser. So it'll be interesting to see how that Ravens defensive line matches up. But, Patrick Queen there, Patrick really looked like a player of the future for him. So I'm upset, but on the other hand, we also get the other one, Pernell McPhee, will be back. So, losing 2 big names, but, that's happened over the last few years with Suggs and C.J. Mosley, who, I cried.
I would like to see C.J. Mosley play a game.
Yeah, he's only played 2 since.
Was it even 2? It might have been the first quarter of the second game.
Yeah.
And
what was that,
a
5-year deal?
This year.
Yeah, it was a 5-year deal.
Which is good. He'll be back and well rested.
Yeah.
Or out of shape. It'll be one of the 2 or both. Von Miller stays with the Broncos, so I got that right. Shaquille Griffin from the Seahawks goes to the Jaguars, along with Marvin Jones from the Lions. The wide receiver, also signs with the Jaguars. I'm curious to see what Eric thinks about those moves. And the big lineman so far that has gone, Joe Thuney, who we both wanted on our teams, ended up with the Kansas City Chiefs. 5 years, $80 million, because he just doesn't want to win the championship, apparently.
It's got to be something like that. It just makes it, I don't know.
The biggest news today, as a Jets fan, Tyrod Taylor got signed to the Houston Texans, which means it guarantees that Deshaun Watson's going to get moved and he's going to go to the Jets. That's what that means, right? Am I reading too much into that?
Yeah, I think you are still. I think you are.
But luckily for Tyrod Taylor, hopefully the medical staff in Houston understands how to use a needle and does not
poke in the wrong spot. Hey, you did miss one big one, and I'm kind of shocked, and we don't know.
There's so many.
Is Dupree? Going to Tennessee.
I just skipped it because I got that wrong.
I was shocked. I thought he would have stayed put there in in Pittsburgh, but huge for him to move. And then the Ravens do signed guard Kevin Zettler from the Giants, coming to the Ravens 3 years, 22.5. They're still trying to move Orlando.
And the big one that's staying put, which I think both you and I are surprised with, Leonard Williams, staying with the Giants, 3 years, $63 million.
Maybe he's got an in with Jones. I don't know. Maybe he's figured something out with him.
And then 2 quarterback moves that I'm curious about.
I'm still scratching my head on one.
Kobe Brissett to the Dolphins, obviously in a backup role. It kind of works because he's still mobile himself, so he can work with Tua. He's been around for a few years, but I really thought he was going to New England, or back to New England, excuse me. But Andy Dalton, a 1-year, $10 million deal to the Chicago Bears. Is that going to be as a backup? Which one moves? You have Foles, you have Trubisky.
Yeah, one of them.
What are you going to do? You can't have 3 of these guys all on the same team.
One of them's got to go. It's going to be hard to figure out which one. Yeah.
What do you think?
Who
goes and where?
I think Trubisky is probably gone. I think, well,
who's going to take him?
Yeah, there's your point. I mean, who backs up Wentz now in Indianapolis? I mean, they still have Jacob Eason, but I mean,
do you think Trubisky's going to go as a backup somewhere else?
I think he'll end up going as a backup somewhere. He'd have to. I mean, where else are you going to put it? I mean, you got Washington that has signed now.
Is Trubisky going to be the latest bust, or is he going to be the next Ryan Tannehill and kind of have a resurgence in a new place? Because I think he's talented. I thought Chicago giving up as much as they did to move up one spot put a lot of pressure on him. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback by any means, but I think he's a decent enough talent.
Could he? So let's think this one. Could he be enough of a push to go out to San Francisco and compete with Jimmy Garoppolo?
No, I think that's a better. He would have a better chance against Dalton and Foles than he would against Jimmy G.
Yeah, I just don't see all 3 of those names sticking there.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes. That was just a really surprising signing. And obviously that just kind of shows that the Bears have went, well, Seattle really isn't going to move Russell Wilson. No. That's all smoke. And we can probably all move on from those rumors.
And I think, like you and I talked last week, I think it'll be a 1-year thing. If Russell doesn't get what he wants here, I think he'll be done next year.
Do you think the Bears signed Dalton so they could offer Seattle Dalton, Trubisky, and Nick Foles for Russell Wilson? Do you think that's how quarterbacks work? We'll give you 3 mediocre quarterbacks for Russell Wilson?
No.
I saw others on my Facebook page talking about the Russell Wilson trade rumors. And one of them was like, I want to trade Russell Wilson to the Jets because obviously the Jets have a lot of trade capital, which is why I do believe the Jets are the favorites to get Deshaun Watson if he moves. So I told him, I was like, we'll give you your picks back because the Seahawks gave 2 first-rounders to the Jets just last year. So we'll give you those back and Sam Darnold, and then you give us Russell Wilson.
I really think what Seattle's got to do is they've got to figure it out. How do you turn a defensive-minded coach and Pete Carroll around and get an offensive coordinator in there to listen to what Wilson wants to do? And because I really think Wilson is one of the better top 5 quarterbacks still, even at his age, to be out there playing. And I think they just need to figure out the right combination of a coach and him and Carroll to make that team work, because they've been so defensive minded for so many years. Mm-hmm. They've got to do something to light a fire under Pete Carroll to do something. I mean, what does management do? And especially from him coming out and saying, hey, listen, I'm not happy on how things have ran. How do they make things right with him?
Well, doing absolutely nothing in free agency is not
good. Yeah, and that was the thing. You and I talked about that. I mean, the only thing that they've done is release Carlos Dunlap.
Yeah.
That's the only thing they've done. No
they
franchise
signed a cornerback but it was like a no-name guy.
Yeah, no franchise tag, which was kind of crazy also.
You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston. Go ahead and follow us on our Facebook and YouTube pages on the R&R Sports Report page. Also follow KLCZ 88.9 on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if we reach 500 likes on Facebook, which I looked before the show, and we're 43 away. If we hit 500, Robert and I will face Kai Fong, the legendary LCSU tennis coach, on a 2-on-1 tennis match and stream it live on our Facebook page. So if you want to watch us get humiliated by an old tennis coach, get all of your friends to go like this page, and we will put on a show.
Listen, you know that when we get there, I'm going to have to call my buddy Jim Babineau and have the paramedics sitting there, right? You know, you realize that. Because it's going to be rough. I mean, even with the legend out there, you already told me. He says, you're tall, you're the tall one, you're going to be up
at the net. I'm the net guy.
You're going to make me run back and forth, this big guy running back and forth on the base.
You don't have a center out of the three-point line. Well, not in the 90s at least. Now they shoot threes, and that ruins my point.
Oh, I'm gonna
play it aside.
We're gonna have to have a defibrillator there, oxygen tanks. You know, it's gonna be ugly.
It'll be fun.
I did see the sign though. Did you see the sign as you walked in?
No, I missed the sign.
It said sign up for intramural tennis. You know, there you go.
We're gonna have to get some practice.
Yeah, we're gonna have to figure it out.
It is currently 49 degrees, and I have to say I hate daylight savings time, but it is really nice to be able to look outside halfway through our show and see the outside. It's not pitch black.
It'll be nice. If you're a student here at LCSC, become a DJ here at KLCZ 88.9 is just one way you can get involved here on campus. There are so many ways. In fact, I'm not going to list them all, from the accounting club to wildlife society and everything in between. Student activities has all the information for you. For more information, it's available on the students activity webpage or at their office in the Student Union Building, room 220.
All right, let's get into the women's tournament. We were really close to having Gonzaga, WSU, and Idaho all in the tournament, but Idaho State does ruin that, and they crushed Idaho in the finals of the Big West tournament. But we do get Oregon. Oregon's a 6th seed in the Alamo region. You get Idaho State will be taking on Kentucky. So Kentucky does make the tournament, just not the men's side. They're in the Riverwalk side of the bracket. I'm getting all confused by the names. I like the men's with the East, West, South, and Midwest. That's way easier. And then WSU and Gonzaga are set to meet in the Elite Eight if they can somehow beat the number 1 seed and the number 4 seed. But WSU gets a 9 seed. This is in the Mercado region. 9 seed, they'll be taking on South Florida. And Gonzaga gets a 5 seed. They will take on Belmont in their first round. Obviously, if WSU wins, they will most likely be taking on number 1 NC State. And if Gonzaga wins, they will most likely be facing number 4 Indiana. Your top seeds in the women's bracket: Stanford, UConn, South Carolina, and NC State. And if you are crazy like us and you're filling out your women's brackets, just know that no seed worse than a 3 seed has ever won the tournament on the women's side.
Yeah, it's tough to come through. But here's my thing about it, and I looked at it and I looked at it and looked at it. It's all about the name of what college you're at. You look at Wake Forest, 12-12 makes it in. Wright State, 18-7. Drexel, 14-8. Every one of them have a worse record than what Idaho has. And I'm not saying I understand we got a Big Sky tournament. You know,
I think I said Big West earlier. Big Sky.
Big Sky. I mean, I think they need to look at that a little bit. I mean, granted, maybe I'm being a homer, but
of course,
Idaho, the way they're looking, but Ashton Wall is going to go up there and start. She's going to walk on that floor and start next year. And Grandy, what she did as a freshman this year, I'm excited to go catch a couple of those games and watch and see how the Vandals, I think, run away with.
I think they got a good program going on the women's side up there in Idaho. Also want to shout out my sister's old school, Utah State, making the tournament. They're an 11th seed in the that's the men's side that they're in the 11th seed. I'm looking at the wrong bracket. It's been a day.
The women's bracket.
It has been
I got
a
the women's
day.
one right here.
I got it on the tab. All right. Give me your biggest upset in the first round. I was going to say Final Four, but that's later on in the show. I need your biggest upset in the first round on the women's tournament.
I think I have my 10 beating a 7. I think that's the biggest upset out of all of them. And it's for me, it's UCF knocking off Northwestern.
I also have UCF beating Northwestern, so congratulations to the Wildcats for winning that game.
Yeah, and I also have North Carolina beating Alabama. I forgot about that one.
I have an 11 seed with Florida Gulf Coast beating Michigan. And my biggest upset of the entire tournament, because it is March 16th, because it is Steve Austin Day.
Steve Austin Day.
I have Stephen F. Austin, the 12 seed, defeating the 5 seed Georgia Tech. So those are my biggest upsets. Keep tuned in, and we will give you our Final Four and our champion, both for the women and the men's tournaments. Again, you go follow us on Facebook, send us your brackets, and we'll see which one of us is correct. All right, now it's time to get into baseball. Let's look at the AL Central first before we get into our drafts, which, again, we did a coin flip before the show, before we did our draft.
Yes.
Robert Hagan gets the first pick because he needs to go to Vegas. I'm on the 50-50.
I'm channeling my inner Daniel Bryan.
We're all going wrestling today. All right, let's look at the AL Central. Let's look at the Minnesota Twins. First place last year. Still cannot win to save their life. They've added Anderson Simmons, a couple good middle-of-the-road pitchers in Alex Colomé and J.A. Happ. They do lose Eddie Rosario and a couple pitchers in Romo and Odorizzi. I still think they're going to be pretty close to the top, if not the leaders in this division. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to come down to, for me, what's going to happen with the bats. As long as the bats keep going in Minnesota, I think that's the main thing happening with that team. You know, Cruz with another year, but how many more years are you going to get out of him? I know they're trying to.
They're going to get 40 more years out of Nelson Cruz.
It's crazy to think, you know, and that's all he's doing is playing for that ball club. But it's, I think they're getting to that point that they need to win now, but they've got to get over the hump of playoffs. They got to make something happen in the playoffs.
Cleveland Indians, who have been the big dog in this division for a long time, are starting to fall off, and it could go even more here. They finished second last year. They had a couple of Rosarios, Eddie and Ahmed, on the team, but they did lose Brett Hand, their closer. They did lose a good starter who, had health issues, but Carlos Carrasco was good. They did lose one of the best base percentage players in the league, Carlos Santana. Oh, and Francisco Lindor left too. So good luck, Jose Ramirez and the rest of the Indians. Well, the Cleveland team, because they lose the Indian moniker next year.
Well, and Shane Bieber, isn't he?
Shane Bieber's there. Shane Bieber's very good. They
Basically
still have a lot of good players.
Yeah, he's going to be – I think he's the guy that they crawl on his back and say, let's go.
Well, Ramirez was the runner-up for MVP last year.
Right. But God, I just don't – I don't see them making a huge push in that division.
It's that team is one of the more interesting ones for me. How about the Chicago White Sox? Another very interesting team. Finished third. How about adding the young coach, Tony La Russa?
How old is he now?
I don't know. Who's older, Nelson Cruz or Tony La Russa? That's what I want to know.
Well, I don't know. I think I might have taken –
or Albert Pujols, because we all know he lied about his age, and who knows how old he really is. They also add a closer in Liam Hendricks, Lance Lynn. They get Adam Eaton. They lose a couple role players in Edwin Encarnacion and James McCann. Not a big deal. I think this is the sleeper team in the American League. If I'm picking a team that I think could represent the American League without being homerish, I think I'm leaning the Chicago White Sox right now.
Yeah, I was a little shocked, when you and I did our draft of where you place this team, and maybe it's just because of how they finished in different divisions. I was surprised, so maybe they're the shocker that is going to hold up the division and give Minnesota the run. I don't see anything coming from Detroit. Detroit seems to be rebuild all the time.
For the White Sox, they're a very young team. I think last year was a struggle for them with all of the COVID stuff and only playing 60 games. But those bats are ridiculous between Moncada, Tim Anderson, and Jimenez. Their pitching rotation, I love with Giolito and Keuchel. Now they get Lynn in there. Carlos Rodon is not too bad. They bolstered up their bullpen. I think it's the team that added the most in the American League on top of a lot of their young players. So I don't know. When we get to predictions, I'm obviously going to lean Yankees because I'm a Yankee fan and they're a very good team. But if I don't go homerish, I might take the White Sox to win the pennant.
I'm interested to see what La Russa brings to the ball club. I mean, he has been a major coach.
I watched a video today. I watched a video today to get ready for this today, and it was the Haters Guide on the 2021 MLB season. It's a really funny video, and he talked about the White Sox, and he talked about Tony La Russa, and he said La Russa's either going to lead this team to a World Series, or he's going to be the reason they finish last place in the entire league. There's no middle ground with him. It's either going to implode terribly or it's all going to work. And it'll just be interesting. Kansas City Royals. I like that they added the Carlos Santana, who I was just talking about, who left Cleveland. Big trade where they got Andrew Benintendi from the Red Sox. So we'll see if they improve. And then you get the Tigers, who bring A.J. Hinch, who was the Astros coach with the whole garbage can incident. Again, I'll steal one of the jokes I watched off of that video that said, maybe if Tigers use garbage cans, they can stay close in games.
I didn't bring my trash can lid to make those noises. So,
well, Haven is hanging out with us. Thank you so much for hanging out, Haven. How is it going tonight, sir? Let's go National League now. Chicago Cubs were your winners last year. But they do lose Yu Darvish and John Lester and Jose Quintana. And luckily they lost Kyle Schwarber because I don't think he's a very good player.
Yeah, he's kind of fallen off the wagon and has forgot how to play ball.
Yes. The Cardinals get Nolan Arenado. So that was what they do there. I'm
still shaking my head on that.
The worst trade ever.
How can Colorado do that to that guy? I mean, I don't know. I still scratch my head about that move.
See, Eric agrees with me. La Russa might just pull a Jim Leland and make this team dangerous. 100% agree. A team that I was all in on last year with the Reds, they did make the playoffs just because it was that super expanded playoffs. But they do lose Bauer and their closer Iglesias, and it was a good pitcher in Desclafani. We'll see. They still have a lot of those free agents that they signed other than Bauer last year. So we will see how they're able to do. Listen, when you're doing, I put Pittsburgh Steelers on our notes, and Robert's already laughing over it.
Well, it was last year or last week in San Francisco 49ers.
Right? When you're doing all the NFL news and you're doing the baseball stuff, it happens.
It's crazy.
Milwaukee Brewers are kind of the same team that they were last year, led by Yelich. We'll see what they do. They lose Braun, but I mean, he was aging. No big deal. And the Pirates, when I put added, I don't know. I can't think of a single name that they added. They lose Tyon, who was a decently young pitcher, but I don't know about that team at all. So let's get to the draft.
Honestly, I think this division is probably the toughest to try to pull somebody out.
And it's because they're all so mediocre.
And I think you hit that right on the head. They just no team in the entire Central just jumps out. It's not like the St. Louis Cardinals from years ago, Albert Pujols when he was there, or even if you jump back even farther with the whole Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa, and everybody was into the Central Division. I mean, nobody wants to go play for those mid markets, and that's what this is. Yeah, they're all mid markets. You're not in LA, you're not in New York, and so it's just kind of. Whoop.
So I mean but it's also the most interesting division because of that. Because I don't think a wild card's going to come out of it. 86 wins could probably win you this division.
I think 86. You're being nice at 86.
Well, you're going to have, but that's what I'm saying. You're going to have a couple teams right around 500. And who knows? You might get one team that goes off and will win 90-92.
So just where you know, and I don't know if you saw this too, and I was looking at this yesterday. It is the team that's got the biggest win and they're shooting for is St. Louis, and they're looking at winning 90 games. I think that's a stretch from this story that I read, and I won't release the name of which place, but I mean, I think they're stretching at 90 wins, and then the next closest is 89, and then you've got an 87, and the rest are all
look how
80.
close that is.
Yeah, and then the rest are all 80. So I mean,
it is that division where first and last would be separated by 10 games,
right?
Which I don't think I can think of another division that'll be that way. All right, let's get into the draft. All Central teams. Robert, once again, sir, you get the first pick.
Number one.
You're going to have no excuse if you lose this. I'm just saying.
Is that a bad thing or a good thing?
I don't know, because it's probably going to work out like basketball.
Probably, and I'll end up running away with it. We'll see.
If we have time, we'll talk about it.
I am jumping on Minnesota. I think they were first place last year. I think they will be that repeat team. I like them signing Hap and Colomb, so I'm going that one with my first pick.
That was good because, again, I'm telling you, I'm all in on the White Sox. I'm a little disappointed that I did not realize that you don't buy into the White Sox. I could have waited longer.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
But I am all in, so I will take the Chicago White Sox with my first pick in the Central.
All right. So with that being said, I'm gonna hopefully go with Yelich. I'm gonna go with Milwaukee with my second pick. I think that might be your team out of the NL to win that division.
Oh, this division's so crazy. Yeah. I was 50-50 here. Cubs or Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cubs. They lost a lot, but we'll see if Chris Bryant can turn things around. Give me the Cubs.
All right. So with the 5 pick, I'm going to go St. Louis. I think Nolan Arenado. I think he's got something to prove. I mean, why did I still.
But is it going to be as effective outside of
Colorado? Yeah, that's interesting to see. I think Colton Long might be a little bit. I'm excited to see who they get to play the infield with Nolan Arenado. So look to see what happens in the next couple of weeks with spring training.
I'm going to go with the Cleveland Indians. Yes, they lost a lot of pieces. They lost Lindor, but they got the runner-up for MVP. And like you said, they got Bieber, who might be the best pitcher in the league right now. So I will take the Indians with the 6th overall pick here in the Central.
So in the 7th, I go back to Kansas City. I like at that point to be able to pick up Benintendi. I'm excited to see what he does. Yeah, what he does in the outfield there for Kansas City. Is it enough to light the fire with Minor and Santana? We'll see.
I'm going to stay away from the AL Central as much as I can now because, again, I think the top and bottom of the NL Central will be close. So I'm going to take the Cincinnati Reds. Again, they lost some key pieces in the offseason, but they have a lot of guys that they signed just last year that will try to get things going. Maybe chalk it up to how weird last year was that they couldn't get into a rhythm, and I'm hoping they get things going. I will take them with my 4th pick. Your last one, Robert.
Right. This was a pivot one again, like I had last week. So I'm going to pivot to the managerial side. I was going to go AJ Hinch just because new ball club gets him away from Houston. Does he turn it around? I hope so. But I mean, which do you take? Do you take do you go to the Steel City or do you go to Detroit?
So. And that will leave me with the Pirates. So I have the Chicago White Sox, the Chicago Cubs, the Cleveland Indians, the Cincinnati Reds, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Robert has the Minnesota Twins, Milwaukee Brewers, St. Louis Cardinals, Kansas City Royals, and the Detroit Trash Cans.
Pretty much.
You are listening to the R&R Sports Report right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston.
KLCZ 88.9 FM is underwritten in part by LCSC Athletics, bringing LCSC NAIA ranked baseball, volleyball, track and field, basketball, and tennis and more to the LC Valley. More information can be found at their website at lcwarriors.com.
All right, back to the basketball tournament. Let's look at the Midwest region. This is Illinois' region. Houston is the 2 seed. West Virginia is the 3. Oklahoma State is the 4. Robert, I ask you again, what is your biggest matchup here in the first round?
My biggest matchup, I got to go back and read here. I did another 10-7. I took Rutgers. Rutgers is going to upset Clemson.
Okay. Is that your favorite the matchup you're most looking forward to watching?
Honestly, I think the one I'm interested in just watching the ball clubs are probably going to be more San Diego State. 23-4 on the season. They've done really well. I'm looking to see what they can do against Syracuse. I mean, Syracuse has been such a big name in basketball for a lot of years. So I think that's where I'm going to lead to see in a ball game on that. I think they play Friday, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out.
I'm really curious. I was too chicken to pull it off, but I want to see Oklahoma State and Liberty. I think Liberty is going to make this a really close game. And like I said, I was really close to pulling that upset. But I just couldn't do it.
And I was going to look here because I was looking at it earlier. I don't think the point spread on that game is as far away as you think it is.
I haven't even looked at any point spreads. All right, so you had the 10 over the 7. That was your biggest upset?
Yeah.
Okay. I was like you earlier. My biggest upset's a 9 over an 8. I have Georgia Tech over Loyola Chicago. I went pretty chalk in this bracket. And who do you have coming out of it?
I think I'm right there with you. I think Illinois is going to run it all the way down. They got Drexel. And then I have Loyola beating Georgia in the 8-9. I think they just walk over both of them. Their first big matchup, I think, will be against West Virginia. Just where, just looking at it, in the round of 64, that game that you were interested in, Oklahoma is favored by 7.5 over Liberty. I think it might be even closer, like you did.
Give it 7.5. I also, like you said, have Illinois going on. So far, so chalky for Robert and I. But with how weird this year is, it's tough not to be.
Yeah, I mean, they're all locked down already in Indiana. I mean, it's like I shared the one story with you. I didn't hear about it. 6 officials go walking in and they can't check in. So they decide to go get something to eat. And then one of them tests positive and they send them all 6 of them home. So, what can happen? I mean, going in, you had to stay locked down and then this happened. So anything's possible.
All right, let's get back to local. Look at some more LCSC sports. As a lot of stuff going on. Again, Kai Fong just putting his teams to the test, both very young on the men and women's side. They go down to New Orleans and down into the South. And for the men, they play 3 opponents, 2 of them in the top 12. They lose to Xavier 1-6, but they do win 2 of the 3 doubles matches. They were swept in the singles. Then they take on number 12 Mobile. They were 1-4 in those matches. Ataru Kikuchi, who again Kai talked about being an up-and-comer, he does win his singles match. And then against Loyola, they lose 2-5, and Kikuchi and his doubles partner William Bouchard, who are the 1 and 2 for the men, they win their doubles match together, and then they both go on and win their singles matches. So good showings against very, very tough competitions on the road. Same thing go for the women. All 3 of their opponents are ranked, as they lose to number 3 Xavier 1-6, as Begona Andres wins her singles match. She's the number 1 seed for the women. She wins her match 7-6, 6-love. Then they take on number 18 Mobile. They lose 2-4 in that one, and Andres and Alexis Mason both win their singles matches. And then against number 21, Loyola, they lose that one 1-7 with Alexandra Berry winning her singles match. Andres lost a crazy one, 6-3, 6-7, and lost 10-5 in the third set tiebreak that they do in college. And Sophie Uhlenkott loses her match 6-3, 3-6, 10-8 in her tiebreaker. So they do lose 1-6, but a lot of really, really close matches. So again, getting those test-ins are just going to make this team better and better. And was getting a late update here with the golf that went down. Again, the second tournament for both the men and the women. This one happened here in Clarkston this week. It'll be the country club next week, as both the men and the women finished second in their events. But congratulations to Lauren Ham, who won the women's individual title. She shoots 77-73 in her 2 rounds. She won by 11 shots. Fantastic day. Only outdone by Carlos Davila, excuse me. He won the men's individual title shooting 76-66. A huge round today. And he also won by 11 shots. So congratulations to those two as the men and women really getting things going here in their golf. They will be playing here again at the country club next week. So let's look at the sports schedule really quick for LCSC sports. Again, basketball this Friday. It's 11 a.m. local time for the women when they take on Campbellsville. That's a fun one to say. And the men will play at 1:45 local time as they take on the 14th seed Oklahoma Wesleyan. And hopefully they win in advance and they move on through. And hopefully when we are on the show on Tuesday, we're talking at least about one of them, if not both, being in the national championship game. Other sports going on. You have baseball all weekend, Friday through Sunday at the College of Idaho, so on the road for the Warriors. Friday they play at 5 p.m. Saturday is at 11 and 2, and then Sunday they play at 10 a.m. Golf will be Monday and Tuesday next week at the Lewiston Golf and Country Club in the LC State Invitational. Track back going after their indoor championships. They will be in the Whitworth Essential. And then the women's tennis team will take on Eastern Washington because, of course, they can't slow things down, take on another NCAA team. And the men's team will take on the community colleges of Spokane. And then volleyball will play Friday and Saturday at Corbin. So, again, all of the sports are going on, and it's just a very, very busy time. And good luck to all of those teams and competitors, and a big shout-out to the basketball teams, and good luck in your national tournaments.
It's going to be a great weekend, hopefully, to follow those guys. Also, it's good to see baseball back after a week off. So, nothing but up for the LC Warriors.
All right.
Let's jump into some Washington football.
Yes, sir.
Let's lead out with Pomeroy here, as they took on Tico Oakdale this last week. And Odessa, they ended up rolling against Odessa 94-6. And no, that was not a typo. 94-6. They were able to beat Pomeroy there by Odessa. They were supposed to play St. John Endicott on Saturday, and then that got canceled. So in comes the Clarkston Bantams. This was crazy to think about. So last night, the Clarkston Bantams JV team went down to Pomeroy to play the varsity team for their senior night. And the Pomeroy varsity come away with a win, 58-42. That seems like more of a basketball score than a football score. But it was a little weird, as you and I were talking back and forth with a friend of ours that has a son that plays for Pomeroy, but they were playing 8-man defense. The Bantams were the JV squad against the 8-man of Pomeroy, and then they were coming back and playing. The Bantams were playing 11-man offense, and then Pomeroy was getting to play 11-man defense. It was kind of all over the place because both ball clubs played different amount of guys on there. But hats off to Pomeroy as they were able to knock off the JV.
Just a quick update from Adam Schefter, because we knew that was going to happen. Nothing super major, but the Washington football team is signing former Bengals cornerback William Jackson to a 3-year, $42 million deal. So there you go. Breaking news here on the R&R Sports Report.
Yeah, another move. We'll probably have one more before the end of the show. I would almost put money on it. We jump over to Soton, and Soton loses on the road this last week to the Chewelah Cougars, 45-7. Panthers jumped out real quick in there in the first quarter and had a 12-yard touchdown pass from Preston Overberg to Jonah Geckner. But that was the only score of the evening for the Panthers. The defense gave up 7 total touchdowns to Chewelah on some really big plays. So the Panthers are back in action on Saturday as they travel up to Liberty, and that's in Spangle there. And that will be a 1 p.m. game for that one. Then 5 miles back down the road, down to Clarkston. Clarkston Bantams take care of business against the Rogers Pirates there on senior night and win that one 43-6. Bantams jump out quick with 2 touchdowns in the first 2 minutes and 8 seconds of the ball game. Senior Eddie Berglund had 186 yards rushing on 3 touchdowns, 137 of which came in the first half with all of his touchdowns, averaged over 9 yards a carry. So the Bantams also held the Pirates to 194 yards unofficially.
So what you're saying is we're disappointed in Berglund for not getting 9 more yards.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean,
they beat the other team in yards.
Yeah, there you go. It's tough, but they do have a lot of depth there with Berglund. But this was the first time he had gotten any carries after getting hurt in the very first game after the 5th play. So he only played 3 downs total before Friday night's game. So Bantams will be on the road to Othello Saturday, 1 o'clock. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, as Othello right now, I believe, is 1-1 on the season. A couple other scores. Colfax takes care of Reardon, 46-6. And the big one, West Valley keeps their undefeated streak alive and beats Pullman at Martin Stadium there Friday night, 20-18. Tough start for Pullman. They're now 1-2 on the season. Clarkston girls soccer has been in action. They played Othello last week, led the way by Luella Skinner. She had 2 goals, along with Jenna Allen and Mariah Johnson. They each had 1 goal apiece. Erica Pickett with 4 saves. And then earlier action tonight, the Clarkston Bantams were able to travel up to Pullman and came away with another win, making the record 4-1. Again, led by Luella Skinner. She gets the hat trick and scores all 3 goals for the Clarkston Bantams.
Very good. Once again, just so many local sports going on. Glad to see the soccer team getting things going. Nice to see football out there. As again, I remember watching Berglund the last couple of years. Fantastic player. Nice to see that going. And it sounded like it was a really fun night out in Pomeroy with how weird that football game was.
Yeah, last night would have been interesting to go down and see that. So, you and I have a mutual friend that lives down there, and both of us getting texts about what was going on with the ball game.
I will be at his house all day Sunday while we do a auction baseball fantasy league draft that takes 6 hours. It just takes so long.
I'm going to be bowling, so I guess that means it's going to be a late start for Fast Track or Fast Lane.
I might be watching it while I'm there. Just to distract myself from how long that thing takes. Yeah. All right, let's go to the South region. Back to the basketball. And this is the Baylor-led region. You have Ohio State 2, Arkansas 3, Purdue 4. I don't want to know your upsets just yet. Give me the one game that you are most looking forward to.
I think for me, it's going to be the Texas Tech Utah State. Utah State not getting the love. They're 20-8 on the season. They're playing Texas Tech. That's a 6-11 matchup. I still think Texas comes away with a win, but I think Utah kind of got shunned a little bit at 11. So I think that's the game that I want to see the most.
That'd be a good one. Give me North Carolina, Wisconsin, the 2 old school powerhouses. I want to see if Wisconsin can slow the game down and have a chance with the Tar Heels. I have a couple upsets on this bracket. What about you?
I do not.
Wow. So
I have
a little change.
I have a 9-8. That's the only one.
I also have Wisconsin beating North Carolina. I did pick Utah State to beat Texas Tech, and I picked Winthrop to beat Villanova. I think Villanova has struggled down the stretch, and I think Winthrop can get the job done. I have both of them losing in the next round, and I have all 4 seeds moving on to the Elite Eight, but a little bit of upset fun. Who do you have, sir, as your Final Four representative out of the South?
Even though they've lost a couple of games, I am going to take Baylor. I think Baylor's just way too strong.
Yeah.
Even if Ohio State makes it there, I think that'll be the round of 8 there. I think Baylor will walk away against Ohio State.
Unfortunately, we agree again, sir.
Dang.
That is Super Truck. We have 3 number 1 seeds. We'll get to the East in just a minute. We'll see if we finally get a change, but we both have Baylor moving on. Let's get to the Big Sky football as Eastern Washington beats Idaho State 46-42. As Andrew Boston has a fantastic day. 10 catches, 143 yards, a couple touchdowns. Eric Berry, or how do you say his last name?
Eric Berry.
Berry, I was close. 34-50, 455 yards, 5 touchdowns, a couple picks. Eastern Washington is on a bye this week. And like we said last week, the Vandals and Northern Arizona were postponed. Unfortunately, they're not going to move it to this week as Idaho is also on a bye. So not a lot of Big Sky football to talk about next week. All right. Do we have to? Do we have to talk about this? The NBA update?
We can just make it real quick. But, you can just say I had 4 more wins than you did this week.
So Robert's teams went 37-32. My teams went 33-38. My teams suck.
You were below.
I don't even have the Knicks.
Again.
The Knicks aren't even on my team, but I kind of wish I did because they were average this year.
Yeah, but here's the thing: this is like 2 consecutive weeks in a row that you've been below 500.
Because they suck.
I'm just saying.
Robert currently now with a 16-win lead.
Can I start my Daniel Bryan
over
again?
me?
Yes.
We'll see if things can turn around. Just looking at the basketball records for a minute. It is a little interesting. I am surprised that the Phoenix Suns are doing as well as they are. They're 26-12. Is Chris Paul making that big of a difference over there?
I don't think so. It's crazy to see how much one player is going to affect it. I mean, and for me, I think it comes down to how these teams play defensively, and a lot of these guys just don't like to play defense. I mean, some of these guys are just shocking. Who would have figured the New York Knicks would be 20-20 and sitting in 7th place right now in the Eastern?
And they were neck and neck with the Nets last night. I actually watched a little bit of that game. And speaking of neck and neck, they're playing the 76ers tonight. The 76ers are 27-12, and currently with 1:49 to go in the 4th quarter, the 76ers are only leading the Knicks by 4, 96-92. The Knicks like to play defense. I'll give them that.
Yeah, they've been playing awful well. I mean,
the Utah Jazz have been just ridiculous. They're now 29-10. They beat the Celtics tonight, 117-109. In a battle of under 500 teams, the Bulls beat the Thunder, 123-102. And the Hawks get back to 500. They're now 20-20 on the year as they crush. The Rockets just suck. 119-107. Pelicans and Blazers just got going, and you get the Timberwolves at 9-30 versus the Los Angeles Lakers. So everyone will tune into that, I'm sure.
So here's my thing: if you look at the standings,
yes,
and you really look and focus on after you get past the 8, I mean, there's only. Other than Detroit's like way already 17 games back, but everybody's within like 2 games of each other.
The West Coast, yeah.
And the East side.
Yeah.
But then,
East Coast,
and then you look at the top 3, you've got Milwaukee sitting in 3rd, 2 games back. And then all of a sudden, then it's the huge drop off between Miami, Charlotte, Boston. Who do you take there? I mean, if you were to follow somebody that could make a push against Brooklyn, against Philadelphia, who's that team that you want to see? I mean, Miami 6 games back, the Hornets 6.5.
Honestly, I think it's Boston. They've had a really struggling start, but they've got a lot of talent on that team.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Boston. I don't know. It's tough for me to get into basketball this year. Where are we at now? I gotta scroll back up. Is it time? Are we there?
No, we're at the East. We're at the East.
Almost
You
there.
can't
Eric,
get there yet.
Eric, we're almost there. We're almost to the biggest moment of the whole show. But let's get to the Eastern region first, and we'll finish off this bracket. This is the Michigan bracket. They are the 1 seed. Alabama's the 2. Texas is the 3. And Florida State is the 4. I one last time ask you, sir, biggest matchup that you want to see in the first round?
Are you ready to laugh?
Always.
Even though it's a 4-12, I think
4-13.
or 4-13 is seen. No, the 5-12.
Or
I'm sorry, 5-12.
okay.
Sorry, is actually seeing Patrick Ewing's Georgetown guys to win to get in at Madison Square Garden, to make it to get there, go against Colorado. You know, I know Georgetown is like just over 500. You know, and Colorado has played well all season in the Pac-12. I want to know what you know Patrick Ewing can bring to the table. I really do. I think it'll be interesting to see.
Eric is ready.
I got my chips ready.
All right.
You got the popcorn, cold beverage too.
So I'm gonna cheat a little bit for the
No.
matchup I want to watch the most, because it's not technically a first round; it's an opening round. Michigan State and UCLA is an opening round game.
Tomorrow night.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Is that tomorrow? I thought that was.
Or no, I'm sorry, 18th. Yeah, you're right, 18th. It'll be
Things
Thursday.
got weird this year, but still, give me that matchup. I am all for it. Yeah, that's on Thursday. It'll be 7 p.m. local time on TBS.
I don't know. That'll be interesting, but I think
And
these.
watch out BYU, because that's a good pedigree team that's going on. All right, give me an upset.
I love BYU.
You got an upset?
In mine, I do not. I don't believe.
Do you have no upsets in the entire tournament?
I'm looking here.
Do you really not have a single double-digit seed moving
I
on in the tournament?
no. I had the couple of 10s, but that was
A
it.
couple 10s.
That's it. I don't think I have any. No.
Give me the winner of Michigan State UCLA.
I have the other 8-9 again. That's all of the 8-9s. I took all
took
the
the 9
9s.
seeds?
I took all the 9s this
That's
year.
funny. I took LSU over St. Bonaventure. Give me the winner of Michigan State UCLA to beat BYU, and I'm rolling with the Hoyas. Give me Patrick Ewing all day. I have Georgetown beating Colorado. I then have Georgetown beating Florida State, and then their run-ins against Michigan. I have a little bit of fun with mine. You are the chalkiest of chalk I've ever seen.
I had UCLA beating Michigan State, but I have BYU. I mean, BYU has just looked really good this year. But like you have said all year long, I mean, look at who they're playing. I mean, WCC teams. They're all the West Conference teams. So
all right. So you must have Michigan moving on, Michigan.
I do. I have Michigan all the way.
So you have 4 number 1 seeds. You have no seeds higher than 10 winning a single game.
Exactly.
You just burn that bracket right now.
All right.
Well, post it first and then burn. I'm actually taking Texas. Give me the 3 seed Texas. I had to change it up a little bit. I couldn't have 4 number 1 seeds. So my final 4 is Gonzaga, Texas, Baylor, and Illinois. And Robert, yours is the 4 number 1s.
Yeah. So here I'm going to ask Eric. Eric posted this here a second ago. He says, "Boo," you know, and he says,
There you go.
14 team. You tell me which one of these 14. You've got Eastern. You've got Abilene Christian.
It's
You
Colgate.
have-
He picked Colgate.
Moorhead, and you've got Colgate. Come on now.
100% he picked Colgate. 100%.
You think so?
I have no idea.
No, I didn't.
We'll find out.
How
Eric,
can you
let us
pick
know
any
what
close?
was your 14 seed. And then post your bracket on our page. I'm in the kickoff group with him, so I'll find out once the tournament gets going anyways. But now it's time for the greatest moment in 24 episodes of this show.
You believe it's been 24 already?
It's been crazy. Aussie Rules football starts this weekend, and I am getting Robert into this sport. I am a Hawthorne Hawks fan. I have been since I got into the sport. They blessed me with the championship early on when I was getting into it in the late 2000s. And then a few years ago, they won back to back to back, and now they suck, unfortunately.
And
It was Colgate. That's awesome.
I don't know.
Eric likes to brush his teeth. I don't know what to tell you. All right, so this is what we're going to do in this. We are going to. So the way the playoffs work in Aussie Rules, which I love their playoff format more than anything else. So 8 teams make the playoffs. Okay. Your top 4 teams will all play each other. 1 versus 4, 2 versus 3. The winner moves on to the semifinals. The loser drops down and will play the winner of the 5-8 or 6-7 matchups. So the bottom group, if you win, you move on. If you lose, you're eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's just straight winner, you're out. So I like that if you make the top 4, it's basically you win and get to the semis, and you're 1 game away from the championship. But if you lose against a top team, you have a chance to rebound and still get back in there. So I like the way that they do it. So you, sir, have been studying. What do you think of the sport?
I even told you I had to sit down yesterday. This is no lie. I sat down yesterday. I watched a YouTube video to explain how you score. I mean, I even messaged you. I said, "Okay, what's a try? What's a behind?" I mean, I was a little lost. So trying to watch how all those things and moving the ball down the field and having to dribble every 16 feet or something like
It's
that.
somewhere. I never know the exact amount, but if you can't just run forever, you have to dribble it at some point. Basically, the ball is kind of rugby-ish, but a lot more bouncy.
Right.
The field is massive.
It's like, what did they
It makes
say?
a soccer field look small, or just for how big it is. It is a weird mix of soccer and rugby and volleyball and football and basketball. It has everything in it. I still, every time anyone wants me to explain Aussie Rules football, I tell them that half the rules were made up when they were drunk in a bar.
I can imagine that. What is it? 100? And so it shows it's 165 meters and 135 meters wide. So
and ovalish.
And it's ovalish, yeah. So.
And they get some massive crowds. Because obviously when you have that big of a field, there's a lot of seats you can fit around that place.
It's huge.
Eric says bouncing the ball every 10 steps or so. So that makes sense.
Right. All I know in some of the research that I saw is that I found out that Hawthorne sucks.
Yeah, they kind of do.
I don't want to be the bad man, but I had to look up the one thing about the wooden spoon.
The wooden spoon. We're gonna get into the wooden spoon award, which is the greatest award in all of sports.
We need to have one of those for the NFL.
We do.
What kind of name can we come up with?
The Jacksonville Jaguar Award.
It'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of people that I looked, and a lot of people where Hawthorne falls and a few of the other teams fall.
And we don't need to talk about the terrible Hawks right now. I mean, Clarko is created a dynasty, and he died with that dynasty instead of trying to rebuild. Okay.
I just want to know what the deal is with North Melbourne then, because that was the bottom. That was the bottom one.
They're just a team that just has not been able to get things going. There are so many levels to Aussie Rules anymore, because there's teams that have been around for far less time, and it's just taking them forever to really get going. They're kind of like minor league teams that we have to have them anyway. So there are some bottom feeders for sure, but Hawthorne could still be worse.
You know who I really want to ask? No offense, Derek, too, but one of our other buddies is from Australia. Wayne Herschel from Australia. I just wonder if he follows.
I'm curious. I don't know if we've ever talked.
I don't think I've ever talked to Aussie Rules football with him. I mean, this is the first time. Like I said, I sat down. I even met. in the post today, and I said, Eric, help. I mean, I even went back and rewatched the video again today just to make sure I knew how scoring worked and all that.
I'm telling you, if you like contact, if you like ridiculous sports, this is the sport. I think if Americans gave the sport a chance, they would fall in love with it.
Right.
There are some ridiculous hits. Nobody wears pads, so they tackle. They have great form on their tackling.
They can climb on top of the guys. That was the one I watched the one guy jump up one time and literally put his knees on top of the guy's shoulder and outstretch. So you went from being
those are the best.
a 6'3" guy to adding one more guy on top.
Right.
You're almost
to make a catch.
It's like, and it's crazy.
And the Aussie Rules football understand what a catch is. The guy grabs the ball and holds it for a half a second. That's a catch. He doesn't even have to come down with it. He doesn't need 2 feet down. He grasped it and he had control of it. That's a catch.
Right.
Or a mark in this one.
So I gotta ask Eric. So Eric, I gotta find a team where I have not been any part of. Who do I follow? This is one of those ones. Who do I follow then?
Look up some logos. Just pick from the logo.
Pick
from the colors.
I'm not my wife. That that's how she did all of her NFL picks for bowling.
That's what you got to do, man.
I can't pick from just
you
looking
can't
at
pick
the
a
logos.
Top team. I picked my team because I have a friend from Australia, and that is their team, and I just followed along. So you know what you want to do. If you want to just be the rival, you could root for the rival of the Hawthorne Hawks,
right?
And that's Geelong.
But aren't they? They're in the top.
They're good.
I saw
They're
top
good.
6 all the way around.
Yeah. But that's the rival of Hawthorne.
I gotta look and see what they do here. All right, I got most of the logos up here.
I guess I was wrong. North Melbourne has been established since 1869, so I was wrong there. So you got all sorts. You got the Demons, you got the Kangaroos, you got the Bombers. You could be a Sydney Swan.
Maybe I need to message like Belmo. Belmo, come on! I gotta figure out who I gotta follow.
I was really hoping we would get breaking news here. Eric has asked the question, sir. What sort of personality do you like in your team?
I'm a defense guy. You know that. I'm defensively minded. You know, that's why I follow the Ravens.
There you go.
They like defense.
Eric, give them the best defensive team. There's a couple really good ones out there. And I will let Eric lead you away. But right now, we are going to pick our top 4 teams in Aussie Rules. And we're going to give out our Wooden Spoon Award. But first, I want you guys to know, if you want to watch Aussie Rules football, you can. What's he doing now? Which team has the cutest guys?
Laura's listening to us tonight.
Okay. So, Laura, I'm going to explain to you how you can watch Aussie Rules football this week. You come back next week, and you tell us which team had the cutest guys, because I'm no judge of that. So the season starts on Thursday. Here, I'm going to give you local times. It is Richmond Tigers versus the Carleton Blues. Richmond Tigers have won 3 of the last 4 premierships. Unfortunately, that one is at 1:25 a.m. local time. So that one's tough to watch, and it's not on local TV.
So I need to set my DVR.
But that one's not on local TV. But you have 2 games this week that will be on Fox Sports 2, if you have that channel. The first one is Friday at 1:25 local time in the morning. That's the Western Bulldogs and the Collingwood Magpies. You could be a Magpie fan. Or the main one that you could really watch Saturday at 9 p.m. Pacific time on Fox Sports 2. You get the Killed the Saints and the Greater Western Sydney Giants.
So
there you go. Watch that game, and then, Laura, you let us know.
And Eric says Bulldogs are 1, Saints are good defense too. So, man, I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure this out.
All right. By the end of the show, I need a team.
All right.
100% I need a team by the end of the show. All right. My top 4. I'll go first because I watch the sport. Listen, Richmond, again, has won 3 of the last 4 premierships. They've won 13 all time. They're tied now with my Hawthorne Hawks for 4th all time. They basically are bringing the whole team back. They're one of the top 4. Port Adelaide, they went 14-3 last year. They're a very young core. Only 3 of their top guys is over 30 years old. They lost that low-scoring game again with Richmond, 46-40. You like defense? There you go. Usually there's over 100 points scored by a team, and that one was 46-40. Geelong, I hate them, of course. I hate Tom Hawkins so much, but he's so good. They added a bunch of great players. They were the runner-up last year. They'll be in my top 3. And the Western Bulldogs, which I think that will make Eric happy. I love their midfield, and I think Marcus Bontempelli will be the best player this year by far. He's going to be so good. So Richmond, Port Adelaide, Geelong, and Western Bulldogs. Those are my top 4. Robert, your top 4?
Well, I just went in there with the idea of not knowing it.
Hold on. Laura's asking if we're desperate for sports this week. No, we're talking about a good sport. We have no problems filling the 2 hours this week, but we're talking about the good sport that starts this week.
We did talk football earlier with all the signings and all that fun stuff.
We're talking football right now.
This is the other football.
Yes.
With the oblong, the differently oblong ball. We haven't even got to the round other football. I don't think we've talked that in a long time either.
I don't think so.
All right. Like I said, I got online. I looked at a bunch of things. I took a lot of people back and forth of basically.
That's all you can do when you're learning as well.
When I'm learning. And I think if I remember right, I took Geelong as probably going to be the winner just because they finished second last year. That's why I put them there. The other was Brisbane, Port Adelaide. Yeah, Port Adelaide. And Richmond, I still just I don't know. I don't know.
How about that? You can be an Adelaide fan. I mean, you're a Ravens fan. They're the Crows.
Yeah, the Crows. No, because you're already a Hawks fan. So
I'm a Hawk.
Yeah,
brown and yellow. By the way, if again you're listening to this and you're going, what in the world are they talking about? Go on YouTube and look up all these teams that we're talking about. Look up their fight songs. They are the most hilarious things you'll ever hear. And it's not like, the old San Diego Superchargers song or whatever. That they only play for random stuff. They legit play this when they come out on the field and if they win. If they win the game, they go into the locker room and they sing their fight song. Like, it is a big part of their teams. But they are hilarious. The Hawthorne Hawks song makes me laugh. So you have Geelong, Brisbane, Port Adelaide, and Richmond. I have Richmond, Port Adelaide, Geelong, and Western as our 4. And the Wooden Spoon Award, which for those that don't know, like Robert had to look up, is given to the team that finishes dead last. That's just a goof-off award that they have. And we both say North Melbourne because that's what we saw online. And I don't want to say Hawthorne. I just don't want to. And again, you got a couple games on FS2 this week, and I'll be watching for sure, even though my Hawks aren't on there. And of course, I think my Hawks play at like 1:30 in the morning, so I'll have to find a different way to watch it for sure.
All right, so just give me Geelong, since that was the team that I kept. Why I put them first on my list. They were runner-ups last year. And you don't like Tom Hawkins, so there you go. Sign me up.
The Geelong Cats now have a new fan.
I need to find me a jersey.
Robert Hagan. I do say, if my friend was not a Hawthorne Hawks fan, if I was just going through and picking teams, I probably would have picked Geelong too before I started to despise them, just because they have Yankee colors.
Right.
Navy blue and white.
Can I change?
Nope.
All right.
But they're a good team, and they've been a good team for a while. So I won't be upset, and then you'll crush us. That's how it'll go.
I'm going to start shopping really quick.
There you go. All right, let's move on now to the sports that don't get a lot of airtime, which I guess technically the Aussie rules will count in that later on. But we had to have some fun with that. Eric has been asking for it. I've been wanting to do it.
Now we just got to figure out 5-pin bowling.
They're going to have leagues. If they had a 5-pin bowling league that I could find anywhere, I could break it down. I just can't find it anywhere.
Yeah.
All right. Players' Championship was pretty fun.
Oh, my God. Players' Championship. It was hilarious watching. I posed this question, and I think Eric might have been the one that we were talking with. I posed the question, is the 17th hole at the Players' Championship at Sawgrass the toughest hole at the course? And the only reason why I look at this and I talk about it is you watched what Byung-Hung Han did on the 17th on Thursday. He marks his scorecard with an 11. And that's just brutal.
That's still better than I would do on that hole.
But I think you would have been more like what Brendan Todd did on Sunday than you would have been on.
So I'm saying I would have just kept doing it over and over. That's the problem.
that whole ate up two guys this week, yeah, and also Brendan Todd on Sunday hit a shot, and you watch him, and I watched it on Twitter. I showed you there just before the game, and he struck the ball about 91 miles an hour, and as soon as it comes off the club face, it was right to the right towards the other island.
Right.
Nowhere close to the green, and you hear him after he drops his club just chuckle and laugh.
Yeah. No, what can you do at that point?
Yeah, what do you do? What do you do? And the bad part is, On was still in contention when he hit that shot on Thursday. He was still sitting pretty decent in that, but it's funny to watch that hole be played. But I'm excited. Justin Thomas comes away with his 14th PGA Tour win, shoots 14 under. I think the biggest thing is knowing what Lee Westwood's done. Back-to-back tournaments now, second place in both those tournaments. Granted, he made a $1.6 million with
darn.
darn. But, I mean, that's two championships back-to-back weeks that you come up one stroke on both tournaments, come up one stroke short of winning the tournament. I mean,
well, his slipped away on Sunday. He struggled on the last day of the tournament.
Right.
DeChambeau was all over the place. He hit one that I don't think got more than 5 feet off the ground, went 100 yards or 100 feet, and went right into the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next hole hit an iron that went dead right. And he even just looked at it and went, "What is happening?"
Mm-hmm. Well, in Westwood, I mean, you can't say he imploded really that last game because he shot par.
Yeah, he struck.
He shot par, but I mean, we're talking about TPC, and that course is a tough course. It is a tough course. As many people want to argue about it, it is one of the tougher courses in the PGA. So, I mean, but again, hats off to Justin Thomas. I mean, what he's done over his career.
I couldn't imagine hitting off those pine needles like they do. I mean, they have them. They're so thick out there.
That's like going up to our buddy Joe Mingo's place and playing on his little par 3 course. I mean, you got all kinds of.
We have pine needles there, but
needles.
It looks like they collect them and pile them up for a year around the golf course, which makes it look beautiful.
Maybe it's like confetti. You just
right
get the confetti cannons out there.
So they get the Honda Classic next week, so that'll be interesting in Palm Beach. So I'm already jealous of Gino and Joe.
Well, here's the thing, and I was talking with a couple other people today or yesterday about this. Is they're in Florida. They're in Florida right now in this turn, and so they're playing without masks. There's crowds back.
Yep.
Florida's letting people in.
What do you think? Sorry to interrupt. What do you think of USC announcing their first live event in April with a full crowd, 100% capacity?
I don't know if I agree with the 100%, but I'm excited to see people starting to get out and do things and being in the groups. I like you and I talked. We don't ever want this show to ever go political or anything like that. But I think that's a lot of what it is. I think a lot of people are just getting to that point that I'm done. Right. Let's move on. We're getting vaccinated. Let's move on.
The vaccinations are getting out there. Not to go way into that. I think it's time to start going. 100% is a little crazy. I was worried with WrestleMania trying to get 75% at Raymond James. They haven't announced it yet and they haven't started selling tickets, but that's what they want is 75%. I still think it's a little early for that. But I do like that we are building. We're getting fans in. We're getting more sports in.
And you look
I'm happy with the progression.
And you look at the crowds from that PGA. I didn't get to watch all of Sunday's action, and so I had to catch up a little bit. But even looking at the crowds, most of the crowds were still there was people that had face masks on, but just to have them out there cheering and being a part of it. I mean, they weren't full galleries by any means, but to have people walking around and being in part of that, it's just huge. So I'm excited for it. It'll be interesting to see how things play out at Palm Beach this week. I'm interested with that. And yes, I'm just like you. I'm kind of jealous of Joel and Gino. So
yes, and if you want to have some fun, Gino, check him out on Facebook or Twitter. They did a story on him when he got attacked by fire ants, and they did it with a whole cartoon style. It's a funny story. Now that it didn't happen to me. Let's go to bowling, where they're doing the World Series of Bowling 11 right now. So you get finals are all over the place. They just did the Chameleon tonight. I'm not looking up results because I'll watch it when I get home. But you had the World Championship on Saturday. Tom Doherty beats Jacob Buttriff 263-257. His clinching strike, his second strike in the 10th, was the ugliest thing I've ever seen, but it wins.
But I think what I found with that tournament was watching how Kyle Troop kind of imploded. Kyle Troop just fell in on himself, after winning the championship there 2 weeks ago, and then bowling with the kids there this last week. I think he just it was no break from it, and he just went right in.
No break for that, but you're bowling so many qualifiers for all of these.
What is it? 48 games for the qualifier for the championship one. That doesn't include all the chameleon, the scorpions, and all that.
So. All right. So then you had the doubles tournament, which he was also in. But Anderson and Prather defeat Moore and Doherty in that one, 245-203. Last night we saw the Cheetah Championships, and in the finals, Sam Cooley defeated Chris Prather in just an awesome moment. He wins 247-185. He's been on the league for about 7 years. It's his first PBA title. He had just lost his mom this year. And the moment he struck in the ninth and went back and sat down, tears were already streaming from his face. Prather, who I think is one of the coolest guys on the tour, stones a 7-pin in the 10th. He's already lost at this point. And a pin came out on the lanes, and they had to get it out. And he just looked at the guy. He's like, I'm not even going to pick it up anyways. He was trying to get out of there so he could have his moment, even walked up to him after, gave him a hug and say, enjoy this moment. So very cool to see with Cooley. Like I said, the Chameleon Championship was showing tonight. I believe that was at 6 o'clock, so I haven't looked yet. And then tomorrow you get the Scorpion Championship, and that'll end out the World Series of Bowling. So plenty of bowling on Fox.
I have them all DVR'd. I'm going to probably go home and finish watching them.
And then NASCAR was at Phoenix. Martin Truex Jr. wins that one. Logano second. Hamlin third. Keselowski fourth. And Chase Elliott somehow finishes fifth, even though he was awful in that race. Every time I saw he was outside the top 20, just couldn't get things going. Pit stops go the right way, and he finishes fifth. So that's how NASCAR works. Hamlin currently leading the points, but point standings don't mean anything anymore. NASCAR, just with a win and you're in kind of a scenario. But it is interesting to see. I like the next race. Atlanta will be really fun. And we are getting closer and closer to Bristol
2 weeks.
On third.
Yeah, I see. Because you got Atlanta, and then you go to Bristol. So
insane. All right, it is time. It is time. It is time. We gave our Final Fours, and now we will give you our champion. On the women's side first, my Final Four is Louisville, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Arizona. I guess we never gave our Final Four for the women. So I only have one number one seed in my tournament. I have the 2 seed Louisville and a couple 3 seeds, Tennessee and Arizona. I'm going to have South Carolina winning my women's bracket, the 1 seed. They've been fantastic all year. I'm going to take the Gamecocks to win the championship. What about you, Robert?
I ended up with 3 number 1s and a number 3, Arizona being my number 3, Stanford, South Carolina, and UConn. Even though with everything that's going on in UConn right now, I'm still going to take them over Stanford. So it'll be UConn winning that one for the women's side.
Be interesting with Oriana missing the first weekend at least, as he tested positive on Monday.
I think that ball club is just way too strong. I mean, they've got 1 loss on the year, and that's it. I mean, I think that's the team again for they were the overall number 1 in this one. So I end up having it for the women. They've got they're there to prove something, and they always have been. I mean, the Huskies are the team if you're in the women's side.
All right, let's go to the men's tournament now. My Final Fours we talked about already. The 1 seeds, Gonzaga, Baylor, and Illinois. And then the 3 seed, Texas. What about you?
Go ahead and laugh. I have all the number 1s. I have Gonzaga.
It's happened before, so I can't laugh.
I'll
laugh when they get knocked out.
I've got Gonzaga, Michigan, Baylor, and Illinois.
All right, and my champion, let's go for the undefeated. It happened in 76, the last time Duke and Kentucky were not in the tournament. It'll happen again. Undefeated team wins the championship. Gonzaga Bulldogs over the Fighting Illini.
I got the same game. Gonzaga, Illinois. So the only thing what we got to do is figure out what our tiebreakers are.
That's the points.
Yeah, I mean total
We'll
points.
figure
We'll
out the
figure
points
that
and
out.
stuff.
We got a couple weeks on that one. As championship game will be on April 5th. All the games being played on the men's side there in Indianapolis area. The women's side, all of them down near San Antonio in the Texas area.
All right. It is time for This Week in Sports History.
This week in sports history for the weeks of March 10th through the 16th in 1869, Cincinnati Red Stockings become the first professional baseball team. Can you imagine that? That's just like right after the Civil War. All right, let's play baseball. Here we go. 1888 heavyweight boxing champ John L. Sullivan gets a draw with Charlie Mitchell's in 30 rounds. That's when they just used to play and hit and
Just go forever.
Yeah, just beat each other up.
Speaking of going forever, I was waiting for you to do your next one. I was setting you up.
Yeah, there you go. Speaking of forever, pitcher Cy Young retires from baseball with 511 wins.
A record that will never be touched.
Never. It won't be. Dodgers manager in 1915, Wilbert Robinson, tries to catch a baseball dropped out of an airplane, but the pilot substitutes it for grapefruit.
What is that?
I saw that. I was just like, okay, who's going to drop a grapefruit out of a plane?
What happened when he caught it?
He didn't catch it. That was the thing. He dropped it. It said, yeah.
What a disappointment to that story.
Exactly. In 1954, Braves' Bobby Thompson breaks his ankle, and guess who replaces him? The home run king, Hank Aaron, gets his first start in the MLB back on March 13th, 1954. 1962, Gordie Howe of the Detroit Red Wings is the second NHLer to score 500 goals, but he ends up his career with 801 goals total. 1962, Wilt Chamberlain is the first and only to score 4,000 in NBA season. 1979, Randy Holt receives 67 minutes worth of penalties in a 60-minute hockey game.
Did you know that's who I was named after?
Randy Holt?
Yeah.
I had no clue.
Absolutely not.
I didn't think so.
Completely bold.
All right, Jerry. I'm finding your son. your son's full of bull. 1985, the Dallas Mavericks coach Dick Motta is the fourth NBA coach to win 700 games. In 1987, David Robinson scores 50 points in the NCAA basketball game. 1988, the NFL St. Louis Cardinals officially moved to Phoenix. San Francisco Giant JT Snow suffers a fractured eye socket when he was hit by a pitch. I remember watching that game live and seeing that guy get hit and just taking a shot. And the biggest one over the last week or so, everything is the 2020. Everything came to a screeching halt last year. Men's basketball tournament was canceled. The women's tournament also canceled. PGA Tour cancels it, announces that Augusta was moving, and then Major League suspends spring training and the start because of COVID. So now we got to have those kind of memories of, yeah, here we go. COVID has changed what sports is. All right. It's all that time.
You got me last time.
And I think I'm going to get you
this time. You tricked me so hard with they got the team, and I was thinking when they started, and that's my excuse. I don't think I have a chance this week.
I even prepped you. You
said basketball.
I prefaced you. Well, it's March Madness time. It's NBA season, March Madness. I prefaced that you were going to have a basketball trivia question.
All right, let's do it.
All right. You're going to hate me. Wilt Chamberlain is the first and only person to score 4,000 points in an NBA season. Who is numbers 2 through 5 and most points scored in a season?
I hate you.
I know.
Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, Dr. J, Karl Malone. There you
go. You got one.
Yeah, I win.
It was kind of a trick question.
Is it all Wilt Chamberlain?
Wilt Chamberlain is number 2 with 3586. Jordan is third with 3041, and then 4 and 5 are both Wilt Chamberlain. No.
Absolutely cheating. So I got it right. As a Michael Jordan.
You get Michael Jordan.
That's a win.
And you were worried we weren't going to get through all of those.
Maravich on the list? Apparently not.
No.
So there you go. That is this week's show. Again, I want to reiterate, good luck to the LCSC men's and women's team as they will be playing on Friday in the Sweet 16. The women will take on the number 3 seed Campbellsville. I'm never going to be able to say that name.
Ever.
They will be playing Friday at 11 a.m. And the men will be playing the 14th seed Oklahoma Wesleyan also on Friday at 1:45 p.m. So when we come back, hopefully we'll be talking about more than one game for both of them. So much free agency still to come next week. Let me reload Twitter, see if I've missed anything.
I got nothing. And nobody has made another move. I figured we'd have at least one more move here.
Are you surprised that wide receivers have been
Quiet?
slow to come out?
Yeah, I am very surprised. Very surprised. I still think Galladay, he's going to end up someplace different.
Also, you have, as we talked about just for a brief second, you have Fastlane on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Who do you got, Alexa Bliss or Randy Orton?
Have they announced that that's happening?
That's happening.
I
They announced it yesterday.
No, I haven't watched it. So
Who do you got, Alexa Bliss or Randy Orton?
I haven't watched it. I gotta.
They don't. They just it's Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
Announcing the match. Right.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what goes on there.
Wrestling is weird.
Depends
I love
on the
it.
storylines.
I love it, but wrestling is weird. We're gonna be able next week to talk about who is in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA. How does it feel to be an Aussie Rule football fan now?
I'm kind of excited now that, after watching the videos, kind of relearning what is happening, and, I'm starting to broaden their horizon. I mean, we got to look at, there's all kinds of sports. I mean, we could be following a little bit more to even following volleyball. I mean, like tonight, we had a Clarkston volleyball match. I mean, we haven't even touched on any volleyball happening, and baseball getting ready to start in the high school levels. Mm-hmm. And so you look at some of these sports that don't get a lot of thing. One sport that I've always been interested in, and I've never watched enough to follow it or to really get into it. And some of the scores get really astronomical out of left field, but they're all usually an Ivy school or those Northeast schools is lacrosse. I'd really like to learn.
Lacrosse was really big on ESPN for a few years.
I think I'd really like to get into watching lacrosse, see what's put that new TV to work. I mean, that's why I told the wife, I said, I got to get a bigger TV where I can watch these sports. Maybe that's what I need to do. So, yeah, nothing like watching more sports. But
so we haven't done this in a few weeks just because it's kind of slowed down. But give me one game to watch this week.
One game to watch this week. I want to make sure that they're going to make a big push. I think it's the Gonzaga game on Saturday afternoon. I hope I make it back in time. I haven't, I'm supposed to go to Othello on Saturday, so that'll be a good game to watch. But I think Gonzaga for me. They've got to. I know they're going to be playing basically. And I hate to use the term a nobody team, but I mean, I think they've got to come out firing and show the selection committee they didn't mess up by making them the number one, even though they are undefeated.
Thing ever.
But they got to come out. I think that's the one.
For me, obviously, after you get done watching your college basketball on Saturday, 9 p.m. It's not the two greatest teams in the AFL. St. Kilda Saints, Greater Western Sydney Giants, FS2.
I'm gonna go set my alarm, my dish when I get home.
That's your nightcap on Saturday, and we will be back next week to talk about that and basketball, and baseball, and football, golf, bowling, all of the sports, even 5-pin bowling. When Eric tries to get us to talk about that a little bit, check us out. R&R Sports Report on the Facebook page. We need 43 more likes on that page to reach 500, and then we play tennis against the legend Kai Fong. If you want to see us embarrass ourselves, get your friends to go like us on that page. It'll be well worth it. But for now, that's Robert. I'm Randy, and we are out.